1945 goes down in history as the year Hitler lost World War II. But what if he didn't? What if Hitler won? How could he have made this happen? And what would he have had to do differently? Today, we are going to try and briefly answer some of these questions. Before we begin, this is one of those topics that everyone who has studied a bit of history has an opinion on. Please, if you disagree with anything stated in this video, feel free to comment below why you disagree, and hopefully there can be a civil conversation that can help to educate everyone who reads it. Oh, and also don't forget to subscribe, as 99% of our viewers are not actually subscribed. With that being said, let's dig in to how I would help Hitler win World War II. Please no one clip that sentence out of context. The first main thing that I would aim to do is to completely mobilize the German economy in 1939 towards the war effort and put a lot of money into building more and more U-boats. Another initial idea I would pitch to the Führer would be to stop in 1940 and just be happy with Western Europe before you go and make things a whole lot harder than they need to be. But if this went in one ear and out the other, then I guess we really are going to have to try and win a world war. It is 1940, the Italians have just entered the war under the ruling of the ever-so-slightly fascist Mussolini. My first order to Benito would be to take Malta at all costs. My main reasoning behind this strategy is the world's greatest bank of knowledge, hindsight. Malta was used by the Allied powers as a fortress in the Mediterranean. It hosted airfields and harbors that played a huge part in fueling essential operations in the war in North Africa. But with this tiny island under the control of our Italian buddies, the pesky British would have a much harder time getting to Egypt. And by a much harder time, I mean they would have to sail all the way around Africa. With the Allies struggling to fuel their troops in North Africa, I would instantly decide to kneel on this wound and send more and more troops to that region. With this concentration of troops, the North African front would be sorted in a jiffy. Another of my main strategies would be to absolutely under no circumstances try and invade Britain. Again, my good friend hindsight is playing a big role in this decision, as it is no secret that the German Air Force was absolutely ravaged during this offensive. Hopefully, with North Africa racking up losses for the British and no signs of attack on their border, the British would accept peace terms. With Britain then out the war, the Allies would be weakened and hopefully defeated by spring 1941. With those pesky Europeans out of the equation, the obstacle that is Russia looks a lot more solvable. Obviously not easily solvable, but solvable still. Hindsight, again, plays a big part with the Eastern Offensive, but it is important to note that the oil fields in Russia are in range of the German bombers, and with attacks coming from three sides, victory looks quite promising. But to make it slightly easier, I would suggest one major thing: invest in 3 or so million thick winter coats. If that didn't work, I would probably sue for peace and just be happy with Europe. So there you have it. Hitler has won the war, thanks to a bit of Unreal Stories battle strategies, but I get the feeling we forgot one little thing. Oh yes, that's it. Japan. Do not dare bomb Pearl Harbor, you absolute lunatics. But in all seriousness, if Japan did not invoke the might of the United States, they would have been able to play a huge role in the invasion of Russia and helped greatly in the Eastern Offensive. If all of these absolutely genius ideas worked and Hitler actually ended up winning the war, then who knows what the world would look like today. Germany may have been able to compete with the United States in the race for world dominance. We could all be trading stocks in Reichsmark, and the greatest power in Asia could be Japan, not China. No one can really say for sure what would be different or the same, but one thing I do know is that history class would be a lot more interesting without the whole year spent learning about the Cold War.